as someone who's been covering Bongbong Marcos Jr., like why did he choose to skip this debate in particular?
Gagawin kasi siya talagang pulutan, and that's not necessarily wrong. The unity would like to package it as, bakit naman namin isasalang isa naming kandidato na magbabatuhan lang sila ng putik and it would not benefit the electorate? That's a wrong framing of the discussion. Mudslinging, using their term, is not necessarily bad. Kasi sinishape na parang we are sizing up the candidates, and Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has a lot to explain for, and many people would want to ask him a lot of questions, at hindi naman masama yon na maningil or batuhan siya ng mga mahihirap na tanong. Again, kanina nakita ko yung tweet ni Gilbert Remulla, who I don't know his role in the campaign, but I've seen him in the HQs, and we know that the Remullas are supporting the Marcos Duterte slate. Sinabi niya na siya nga lang yung umattend sa SMNI because that's how they would want to package this discussion in their alternate universe, 'di ba? Na yung SMNI yung maganda, never mind that the owner has already endorsed them openly and is, 'di ba, wanted in the US for sex trafficking of children. Pero yan, in their alternate world, in their alternate universe, their supporters would want to believe that actually so pupunta naman siya sa debate. Hindi nga lang siya pupunta sa debate na pangit para sa kanila, but that's wrong.
Yeah, if I can reinforce JC's point earlier, I think my hat off to CNN for continually reminding the audience that Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was absent. There were a couple of questions that very specifically they said, Bongbong Marcos said this about the South China Sea. We would have asked him this question if he were present. And then later on, they also said, he pledged into the 2016 CNN vice presidential debate that he won't run for the presidency. I would like to ask him why he changed his mind. And I thought that was a real service that they did.
Kumbaga ginawang presence yung absence ni Marcos Jr.
Well, just to make a quick point about Marcos's absence as well. This is also, aside from CNN saying the questions that they would have wanted to ask Marcos, I think this is also one question that, was asked of all candidates, and it would have been very interesting to hear his answer. I, for one, would have very much wanted to hear what Bongbong Marcos was doing in the first few days, months, and weeks of the pandemic. And that being said, I think what stood out to me is, first of all, how you saw in the response in the candidates' answers just how personal the pandemic has made governance and politics, especially during this election season. I think you see that perhaps in maybe why Montemayor is running. But that being said, the answer that stood out to me the most is Vice President Robredo's, and I think that if you remember her answer, she was practically running out of breath, just trying to list down all the things that her office did in the days, weeks, and months that followed the first CCQ.
I found this very interesting. There's at least one key politician who shares Mara's view that Vice President Robredo did very well in the debate. Cheese Escudero is, of course, a part of her slate. But also, infamously, has not yet fully endorsed her. But this was his tweet just an hour ago. All the candidates did very well, but Secretary Abella, Senator Lacson, VP Lenny stood out. Secretary Abella and Senator Lacson showed their vast experience. And VP Lenny was very presidentiable, full of substance, to the point, and humble yet confident. Kudos to all. I found that very interesting. I think that this is still not a full endorsement, but maybe Cheese is on his way there.
TSC Yorme came to the debate dressed for the job. Sabi mo nga sa tweet mo na very presidential yung pag-package niya, yung outfit niya today. Pero yung performance niya ba nag-match doon sa pag-dress to the nines niya today?
I would say bitin and underwhelming for me personally yung kanyang performance. I think that he wanted to play it safe. It was very obvious that he kept to the same messaging, yung buhay at kabuhayan, I get things done. We've heard that in past interviews, past debates. And tellingly talaga, hindi niya ginamit yung opportunity to, for example, harp on Marcos's absence. And you would think na as someone in third place, 'di ba? Faced with these dominant figures from Marcos, na you grab the opportunity. Parang hindi naman, we're not expecting him naman na wakwakan niya si Marcos, pero at least to kind of use that opportunity, that stage to show na, oy, wala siya, ako nandito. So wala yung verbal fireworks, wala yung parang palaban. It seemed that he wanted to just stick to his messaging and not cause any, eyebrow raising during the debate. And I guess on some level strategic yon, kasi you don't
Yeah.
want to harm where you are. Like you just want to, coast along, go, not like impede on your campaign. But at the same time, if you're someone with a third place ranking, diba, there's also a point where you want to convert voters, and sometimes statements with a punch can do that. So, diba, let's see if mag-work tong play it safe strategy niya.
When the debate started, I said I fully expected Isko Moreno to attack both Bongbong Marcos and Leni Robredo. And the reason for that, I thought, is that the reason that I thought that is I'm thinking that his real audience right now is an audience of one. That's President Duterte. He wants to be President Duterte's anointed candidate, and for him to be considered his anointed, he needs to prove that he can take on Marcos. He's better than Marcos. At the same time, that he's a real alternative to Leni Robredo. However, as Pia pointed out, he really just played it safe. No? So he went to the other messaging strategy in this debate. So okay, I'm puzzled now. I'm not sure whether this was the right thing for him to do. Of course, that means that's also possible that I don't understand exactly their entire the campaign dynamics. But I was just struck by that. However, if I can add, there are many comments on social media na banas na banas sila that Isko was ungrammatical, especially yung what matter most. No? He would say what matter most.
Classic yan. Pati sa campaign 40, ganyan siya.
I think it actually trended for a while kanina.
Yeah, but okay. That might annoy editors, journalists like us, but sa tingin ko sa masa, ano yan eh, parang,
Yeah. Alam mo, it's kind of
Yeah.
endearing nga to some people eh. Kasi
Yeah.
you understand his background. He's really much better versed in Filipino. Even me, like I learned new Filipino words from Isko Moreno. I'm masyadong Englishera eh. So I really don't blame him for that. And I think it's part of his authenticity also. But I get where some people are coming from na, syempre if you're like a grammar Nazi, right? Like you go crazy with his speeches.
Yeah.
Ang ganda pala, Pia, bawat election na-expose kasi isang bagong language. Noong 2016, medyo nababad ka sa Bisaya kahit papano. Tapos ngayon,
Pero
sa
kay
Tondo Tagalog. To be more specific, Tondo Tagalog yung nabababad ka ngayon.
Pero yung new words ko kay Duterte, mostly Bisaya, cuss words. Kay Isko naman, at least medyo like malalim na I can actually use in like decent conversations. So,